Hello there, YouTube. Welcome to Album a Day Online. My name is Daryl, I'll be your critic. I am back. I took the summer off. I took some time for me, but I won't bore you with my personal life. Instead, I'll bore you with my album reviews. The summer came and went, and a lot of releases came with it, and there was a lot of great music that I picked up and was exposed to, both through decisions to add to my personal collection and stuff that came across my desk. I don't have a desk. But for me, the biggest releases of the summer were the final 3 releases of the Led Zeppelin catalog, specifically in chronological order, the re-releases, special editions of Led Zeppelin's Presence, In Through the Outdoor, and Coda. So, I don't think I need to give you any history on these albums. Of course, after the huge release that was Physical Graffiti in 1975, they toured like crazy, and they went back to the studio after some really rough moments. Robert got into a bad car crash and actually recorded their 1976 release, 77 release Presence, and wearing a full cast on his leg, and he was in a wheelchair when he recorded this album. But he's the singer, so you know it's not like he was a drummer and needed his leg in order to play. Let's start with Presence. Presence is, in my mind, the second best Led Zeppelin record, which is contrary to a lot of popular belief. Everyone seems to think it's either Zeppelin 1 or Zeppelin 4 or Zeppelin 2 or Zeppelin 3. So those first 4 records, most people will go will say that one of those first 4 records is their favorite, and then from those other 4 records probably also their second favorite. Not so for me. I love those records. Obviously, I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan, but my favorite Zeppelin albums are, the first is Physical Graffiti, and second is Presence. This contains the archetype for a lot of what became metal in the 80s, and the late 70s. At least hard rock style metal. A lot of time signature changes, the beat changes and tempo changes and just sort of left turns in the middle of the song. And I love it. So, I think it deserves a place very high in every Led Zeppelin fan's collection. This edition also contains, for me, because it's a 2-disc edition, as I've purchased all the Led Zeppelin re-releases that started back in June of last year, from Zeppelin 1 all the way now to Coda. I've purchased the deluxe CD editions. Now, they're available in a single disc edition, which is very simple artwork, the original album artwork without any additional photos and stuff, and the entire album remastered and by Jimmy Page. The 2-disc editions, or in the case of Coda, 3-disc editions, contain a second disc of bonus tracks, most of which throughout the entire re-release series have been unnecessary. And I'm sorry to say it, and there may be some super die-hard, don't listen to anything else except Led Zeppelin fans that want to hear every single note ever recorded that they can get their hands on, although a lot of the stuff is probably out there via bootleg collections. But for me, I don't need to hear, Fool in the Rain without vocals. I don't need to hear it. It's interesting, I guess, from an academic point of view, if I was a Led Zeppelin academic, but I'm not. I'm a fan, I'm a huge fan, and I want to purchase everything I can get my hands on, as evidenced by me buying the 2-disc editions, even though I learned a lesson right from Led Zeppelin 1, 2, and 3, which were originally released all together in June of last year. A lot of the second disc tracks are unnecessary. But Presence contains a 5.5-minute instrumental track penned by piano player and bass player John Paul Jones, which perhaps is the crown jewel of the whole collection. as far as stuff that we hadn't heard before, whether we've heard it in a different version or not. This is a song I'd never heard before, and on second disc, and it is titled 10 Ribs and All / Carrot Pod Pod. And sorry, it's almost 7 minutes long. It's a piano-led slow tempo rock and roll track. It sounds a lot like Elton John from the very early days, so up to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. That sort of piano rock sound is what that piece sounds like. And I can see why they left it off during the recording sessions for Presence, because it doesn't quite fit the musical aesthetic, but I think it's a shame that it didn't get continued to work on and didn't get picked up on the next release, which is In Through the Outdoor, especially considering that for the most part, a lot of the music on this was helmed by John Paul Jones again. And he sort of got over the piano tracks and sort of moved into a more of the synth type stuff, sort of keeping in the time. This came out in 1979, and it sounded very much like a lot of the new music that was coming out in the late 70s that other rock and roll artists were either rallying against or were trying on for size. Yeah, there's a lot more synth sounds on this record. Again, what I like about the release of In Through the Outdoor is it comes in the original paper bag that you got on the album, so that you wouldn't know exactly what album cover you got, because there were several different album covers available of the man sitting on the chair in the bar. For those of you who have it on CD for all these years and never bought the original vinyl, this is what we are used to seeing, this photo right here. But it is available when it was originally released in many different incarnations, many different points of view within the album to entice some buyers to go out and purchase as many copies as they could to make sure they got all the available photos. A couple bands have done that over the years, not many, put out the same album with different album covers. In Through the Outdoor is a difficult album for me to review because it's Led Zeppelin, and so I automatically give it a pass. But when you scrutinize songs like Hot Dog and Carousel Ombra, it's hard to scrutinize songs like that against songs like Kashmir or Black Dog or T for One, the last track, which is 9.5 minutes long on The End of Presence, which is top 5 favorite songs for me. However, In Through the Outdoor does contain some really great songs. It contains I'm Gonna Crawl and In the Evening, which again is was a song that I think a lot of hard rock metal fans took as an archetype into what became a lot of hard rock and metal sounds throughout the 80s. I know that Robert Plant would be groaning very loudly if he knew that in some small part he was responsible for bands like White Lion and Whitesnake, and I'm probably sure there's another bad 80s metal band that starts with White. I can't think of one. But it is what it is. It's not their fault. They kind of ruined rock and roll in the 80s, but it is. So, Led Zeppelin's Presence does contain some great tracks, and then finally they did some touring, and then they stopped, they took a break, and John Bonham drank himself to death. He choked on his own vomit. Of course, this is not news for any Led Zeppelin fan, but it's the reason that Led Zeppelin stopped. And then the 3 remaining members decided after several months that they didn't want to continue on. It wouldn't be right to just get a new drummer and call themselves Led Zeppelin. So they didn't. So Jimmy Page was taxed with fulfilling contractual obligations and went back into the studio and pieced together B-sides and unreleased material that they just had sitting around in the vaults, and put together an album worth of material called Coda. To call it an album worth of material is a bit of a stretch because it's only about 34 minutes long, the original release, which makes the re-release so much fun because it's more than just one bonus disc, it's actually 2 bonus discs. And again, there's a lot of stuff on here and you go, I don't really care about hearing I'm Gonna Crawl or whatever with an alternate vocal mix. I don't care. It doesn't. as a fan, it's interesting. Again, academically, okay, but I don't care. Get me something I haven't heard before. And there is some stuff on here. There aren't really any new songs that haven't been heard before, with the exception of an excellent alternate version of of When the Levee Breaks. It took that 8-minute song and whittled it down to about 4.5 minutes and changed the drum beat to a dubstep dance hall style beat, and it's fantastic. And for that alone, it's worth the extra shekels to get your hands on this. So these albums, if you're a Led Zeppelin completist, are definitely worth picking up. If you haven't picked up any of the reissues, I would recommend buying the single disc editions of all the reissues for the most part. Save yourself the extra $2, but I mean it's only an extra $2. But save yourself this extra $2, except certainly for Coda and for Presence. There's some indispensable unreleased material on these. I also really enjoyed the concert on Led Zeppelin 1 that was recorded in France back in '69. That's previously, well, it's been out there in bootleg versions, but it's, you know, I wanted Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, John Paul Jones, and the estate of John Bonham to get money directly from me instead of just, you know, adulation and bootleg money, which they didn't get anyways. So go out there. If you haven't picked up any of the reissues or wasn't even really aware that they were happening, they're available in single disc editions, the dual disc editions, or triple disc edition, and they're also available in super deluxe editions. If you have $150 per album just floating around, burning a hole in your pocket, go out and buy the super deluxe editions. You get all the music available on CD that we've been talking about, as well as all the music then also pressed on freshly minted 180-gram vinyl. You get all the artwork. You also get an extra hardcover booklet, full-size, you know, coffee table book with each album. It's gorgeously packaged, and you also get a download key for lossless audio downloads. As opposed to a standard MP3, it's actually high-res audio, which apparently is completely awesome and completely lossless in all of its glory. So, go out and get them. And that's it. I feel kind of sad. This is the last of the collection for the reissues that are going to be coming out, unless Jimmy Page decides again to re-release them in a special 5.1 audio, Blu-ray audio version or something like that, which I would love, by the way, Jimmy. If you ever see this, please think about remastering, at the very least, a collection of tracks for surround sound audio. I implore you, because I need to give you more money. Go out and get them. They're well worth the money. As a Led Zeppelin fan, if you haven't got them yet, why not? And if you're just getting into Led Zeppelin, you might as well get the single disc editions, except for Presence and Led Zeppelin 1 and Coda. The rest of the collection is the second disc is forgettable. But that's all I have to say. I feel sad. You know, there's still maybe a reissue of the soundtrack from the lamentably bad Song Remains the Same movie that was released in 1975, but yeah, it's already been reissued a couple years ago, and I think that's good enough. So, my name is Daryl. I've been your critic. Please go out there and discover new music. Don't stop listening to music. Take time every day to put on some headphones or sit in front of a nice pair of speakers and just immerse yourself in some music, and because it's good for you. Music is good for the soul. Go out there, discover new music. Don't stop listening, and I will see you very shortly. I took a break. Now I'm back. I've been your critic, and I'll see you again.